Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's jump straight into it. So all the noise has been an explosion of news regarding Benjamin Šeško with Newcastle submitting an official bid. We've got an update on how we are able to fund the deal. All sorts of noise going on. So there's absolutely no other place to start. Then with the Benjamin Šeško situation, there's been loads of news, some of it conflicting, as you can imagine, with the transfer window and, mixed reports and all sorts. I'm just going to do it in order for a timeline, just to make things easier for everyone to make sense of actually what's been said, who said what, and we're going to go through everything there. So firstly, Craig Hope from the Daily Mail, who's a good journalist that's close to Newcastle, said that Newcastle United have pulled out of the race to sign Benjamin Šeško. Then we've had Graham Bailey said that there's growing internal confidence at Old Trafford that Manchester United will win the race to sign Benjamin Šeško, so all positive. Fabrizio Romano has said that Manchester United spoke to Red Bull Leipzig, had direct contact with the German club. They also spoke with the agents of Sesko, and Sesko is showing he is open to joining Manchester United even without European football. So again, more positivity from Fabrizio Romano saying that we've spoke to RB Leipzig, we've spoke to Sesko's agent, he's open to joining United even without Europe. Man United have approached Leipzig to tell them we are ready to negotiate, we are ready to bid. If Benjamin Šeško wants to join us, we will send you immediately an official bid. So United's stance is, as soon as if Benjamin Šeško gives us the go-ahead, we are ready to go in and make an official bid for Benjamin Šeško, which is positive, and maybe that's something that we're having to do from the players' side as a way to show that we do have funds, we are ready, we can get a deal done for the player. Then we've had Sky Sports Germany also saying that Manchester United are intensifying their pursuit of Benjamin Šeško behind the scenes. Newcastle remain in the race, but the momentum is shifting towards United. So again, all looking positive towards United, and the signs were there that United were maybe seen as the favourites for Benjamin Šeško. Then we've had Craig Hope again saying that Newcastle have presented package and vision for player and await decision. Man United also at the table. Reports from Slovenia of choosing Newcastle noted, but nothing communicated yet. Feeling in week, Man United favourites, but hope remains after much work behind the scenes. So again, Craig Hope. Now that was because there was a report coming from a Slovenian news outlet. I do not know the credibility. It was posted by some aggregator sites and then taken down. The actual journalist has not got very many followers online, so I would say take it with a pinch of salt. The news outlet it came from looks fairly decent with 80-odd thousand followers, but again, I don't know the credibility of the source. But they were suggesting that Sesko exclusive. Newcastle won the battle for Slovenian star player of RB Leipzig, Benjamin Šeško. So Newcastle beat Manchester United and Liverpool as well. So I would say take it with a pinch of salt. Then we've had those. So that was all overnight. And then today it's been an absolute explosion of news again regarding the situation, saying that, so first it came from Sky, saying that Newcastle have made a formal bid for RB Leipzig for Benjamin Šeško. The bid is 75 million euros plus 5 million euros, which matches Leipzig's valuation. So 65.5 million plus 4.3 million, so about 69 million pounds, just under 70 million pounds. Newcastle have presented their vision to the Slovenian striker and made it clear they want the deal to happen. Sesko is considering his situation, with Manchester United also at the table. He is open to both projects. So Sky saying that Newcastle have made an official bid to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Šeško for just shy of 70 million pounds. Then we had Ben Jacobs saying the same thing, that Newcastle made a 75 plus 5 million euro bid for Benjamin Šeško. Club record offer. Newcastle's tactic has always been to get a quick agreement with Leipzig in the hope that Man United can't or won't match it. So that's interesting from Ben Jacobs, suggesting that Newcastle are trying a tactic where they get a deal agreed with RB Leipzig for the player as a way to force the player to go to Newcastle, or because if we don't match at least the minimum of what Newcastle are offering, then maybe RB Leipzig do have to agree that deal and reject our offer, in which case it leaves Sesko in a position where actually, he can't come to United because we're not willing to pay that bid. So that seems to be Newcastle's tactic, is to make an official bid in the hope that we will not match it or at least outbid it. We'll go through some news around the finances and stuff in a second. So I was thinking, well, let's wait for a bit more credibility, even though Sky, Ben Jacobs are decent sources. But then we've had credibility from none other than David Ornstein confirming it as well. So Newcastle submit offer to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Šeško. Newcastle bid made in the last 24 hours worth 75 plus 5 million euros, around asking price from RB Leipzig, informed to suitors. Man United pursuit ongoing, no decision yet from 22-year-old Slovenian international striker. So at the time of recording this video, there is still no update or no news regarding what Benjamin Šeško wants to do, and that's the key to this transfer. Newcastle can bid all they want, but if Sesko says, no, actually, I want to go to United, then that puts us back in the driving seat. But Newcastle, I think, are playing a bit of a game by bidding and trying to get a deal done first with RB Leipzig as a way to then potentially either make us withdraw from the race, possibly, because if RB Leipzig accept that bid, that's the asking price. If we can't go anywhere near that, we might have to walk away from the deal and then pivot to, I know, maybe back to Watkins, maybe the Nicholas Jackson, Garnacho deal becomes more viable if we don't get this deal done over the line. At the time of recording, though, Ben Jacobs did say that Benjamin Šeško has not yet decided on his next club. So really interesting, finally a transfer battle that we're in and amongst and in the mix with regarding Benjamin Šeško. Give us your thoughts and feelings on that, though, because it's obviously alarming. It's concerning that that Newcastle are making this push for Sesko. I think, if anything, though, it might accelerate us to actually make a move and do something. If we want the player, we're going to have to move quick, which I actually see as a positive, because we can't, be dithering and countless weeks of negotiations. If Newcastle are making a very fast play, that means we have to be fast as well. I still think we've got, there's still reports before that, though, suggesting that United were still the favourites for him. But obviously you don't know the situation until Ornstein or Romano will probably come out with an update at the time I'm recording, or when I'm uploading this video, he'll probably come out with some news regarding the situation. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that. So just to summarise where we're at, there were early reports suggesting that United were favourites. Romano confirming that we're in conversations, we're in talks, we're ready to make a bid as soon as we get the go-ahead from Sesko. Then we've had Newcastle making an official bid to RB Leipzig as a way to force the hand, or maybe, try to get us to walk away, because if we're not prepared to pay that sort of asking price and they agree the deal, then we would have to walk away if we're not going to go anywhere near that sort of price for Benjamin Šeško. I'd like to hope, though, that United were aware of the asking price beforehand, especially with Christopher Vivell's connection with the RB group and, probably knowing people behind the scenes. Maybe they would know, but that's an assumption of mine. But at the time of recording, Benjamin Šeško has not yet made his decision, and I think that's the key. It's all down to the player. If the player chooses to go to Newcastle, then they'll get the deal done quickly. If he chooses to come to United and Newcastle pull out of the deal, then it puts us back in a position where we can negotiate with RB Leipzig as well. But really interesting to see how this plays out. Give us your thoughts in the comments. I'm kind of, I'm all behind Benjamin Šeško now coming. I've said before, though, if we don't get him and then we have to go back maybe to Ollie Watkins, I'm cool with that as well. I'm not particularly fussy when it comes to that. I think both would be good options. Both have pros and cons. The one I wouldn't want to pivot towards, though, is Nicholas Jackson, even though I think Nicholas Jackson is a better player than what's being perceived out there as well. I just don't like doing deals with Chelsea because we always seem to come off worse in that situation. That's the only thing that puts me off that deal. But going back to Sesko, give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Going to be an interesting couple of days, I think, regarding the situation, because Romano has been saying that he's thinking about his offers and his situation, but he's not going to be thinking about it for too long. So maybe over the weekend or next couple of days, hopefully we'll get a decision. But it does seem to be moving a lot faster than I expected, which I think is positive, because either way we're gonna get a quick conclusion, hopefully, for this deal. The only thing that does worry me, though, is watching Talk of the Devils podcast and Andy Mitten and Laurie Whitwell on there as well, and they were saying that, and one of the things they said that was, I thought, quite interesting, was that United have tried before multiple times to get Benjamin Šeško, and the belief was that his agent has kind of pulled back on the deal, hoping under the assumption that Benjamin Šeško will be worth a lot more in the future, which has turned out to be correct because, and that's one of the reasons why we couldn't get a deal done earlier for Benjamin Šeško, is because his agent was like, no, we'll wait and we'll move you to different places because in the future we're going to get more money, or potentially he's going to get a higher agent fee. And that worries me around the deal because Newcastle will probably be able to they've got more cash than we have, and we'll be able to pay maybe a higher agent fee, and that's my concern with the Benjamin Šeško deal. But you let me know what you think about it in the comments. Now, in terms of funding it, there's been some interesting updates. So Manchester United are confident of United are confident of financing a deal for RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Šeško before selling any of the members of their bomb squad. United have opened discussions to sign Šeško in a deal that could cost up to £79 million. Newcastle are resigned to Sesko joining United, having lined up the Slovenian international as a potential replacement for Alexander Isak if he joins Liverpool. Newcastle have suggested United are at an advanced stage to sign Sesko, though club sources have denied that. Now, that came out literally about half an hour ago at the time of recording this video from Samuel Lucas. Now, I don't know when he's written that story, though, whether he's written that report before the news is broken regarding Newcastle making a bid, but also suggesting, if we go back to the original one, that we're confident of financing a deal for RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Šeško. And if you remember, there was a story the other day from Laurie Whitwell suggesting that United are confident they've got the money to do this, maybe under the assumption that if we do sell players, it's the PSR deadline from next year that we have to worry about. So we can buy players now and effectively, as long as we get the sales done, could sell someone in January, for example, in order to still help us from a PSR perspective. But interestingly, though, Chris Wheeler said exactly like a similar thing, which sounds like a club brief. It's the same as what Samuel Lucas was saying. But interestingly, he said that Man United signed Cunha and Wolves from Wolves for 62.5 and can pay for both the transfer and Mbeumo deal in instalments, staying within FFP limits. This leaves room for pursuit of RB Leipzig's Benjamin Šeško. So it was a really good piece actually breaking it down. And when you think about it, they're right, because we're paying an installments for Cunha and Mbeumo. I think it's £20 million for Cunha. I don't know the split or how long the costs of the Mbeumo deal is going to be, but effectively we might have, let's say it's the same as Cunha for argument's sake. That's £40 million from our budget this window or this year from a football perspective. So then next year the same, but then next year you've got to remember Casemiro's going to be out of contract, Maguire will be out of contract, Antony will definitely be gone regardless of what happens. Sancho would definitely be gone regardless of whether we sell him or not, because their contracts are expiring as well. So it gives us a bit more wiggle room from PSR as well, and then maybe we'll look to do the same with Benjamin Šeško. They also refer to in the reports the fact that Rashford's gone on loan, saved us like £12 million, the Elanga money and all the extra funds that we've got through sell-on clauses as well has put us in a position where we can actually get Sesko without exits. We still need the exits, though, I think, to stay compliant from PSR or to help us for the rest of the window. But that's really interesting and a good way to look at it. And it's nice that we've had that confirmed as well around because we think Saturday saying, all summer we've been told sell to buy and we're skint, and then we're making moves for Sesko after already getting Cunha and Mbeumo. And the reason behind that is because of how we structured the deals, plus the extra wiggle room we've got with the sell-ons from like Elanga and stuff as well, which is really interesting. Now, one thing that could give us the advantage though in any deal for Sesko is Rasmus Hojlund. So Fabrizio Romano said that on Sesko and Rasmus Hojlund, it was my story when I told you a few days ago that Leipzig had a dream to include Rasmus Hojlund in the deal for Sesko. I can confirm that Leipzig, when Man United contacted, told them, okay, give us Hojlund as a new striker as part of the negotiation. So Romano, again, doubling down on potentially RB Leipzig saying, okay, yeah, we're happy to negotiate with you, but we want to include Rasmus Hojlund as part of that deal. So that could give us an advantage as well, even if Newcastle bid. If RB Leipzig want Højlund and we can do some sort of deal, I know it's not a swap, but it will be a player exchange, that potentially could put us in the driving seat as well. But it depends on if Sesko chooses to come to United or not. Because obviously, if he says no to us, we're not going to sell Rasmus Hojlund and leave us until we get another striker in. So, but that potentially could be one of the ways of getting Benjamin Šeško's asking price down, is including Rasmus Hojlund as part of some sort of player exchange. Chris Wheeler said if they do sign Sesko, they've quite clearly got to do something about Højlund because of the uncertainty around Sesko. They have to keep him happy and not say too much right now until something happens with Sesko or another striker. So that's Chris Wheeler saying that even though Amrim's come out and praised him and done all this, they can't really do anything else. He's not going to sit in a press conference and say, yeah, I can't wait to sell Rasmus Hojlund. We definitely want to bring a striker in because we might have to rely on Højlund this summer or this season if we don't get a deal for a striker done. So they're just, which is the right thing to do. You can't sit there and criticise your current players if you're going to need to rely on them. But interestingly, though, Sky have been saying that RB Leipzig have explored the conditions of a loan deal for Rasmus Hojlund, so potentially there could be something there where we do go for Sesko, potentially loan Højlund there if we don't do a player exchange or some sort of swap. I know it's not a swap, but you get what I mean when I'm saying that. That could potentially give us a bit of a bargaining power or something to help with the negotiations as well. But obviously, player himself though said the other day in an interview which I brought to you that he's happy to stay and fight for his place. But I think if he was told by United he's going to be surplus to requirements and we want to sell, that would change his opinion, change his mind. But interesting. Starting to heat up regarding Benjamin Šeško. My phone is absolutely lighting up like a Christmas tree as well. So there's probably some breaking news at the time of recording this video. Let's see what's being said. You'll have to forgive me. I've not got any slides for this because the news is literally coming out thick and fast. Newcastle offer of 75 plus 5 for RB Leipzig nearing Leipzig's valuation. Newcastle are pressing hard. This came from Sky Germany. What else is coming out? He's not in the squad. Man United and Newcastle are pushing a signing with an official offer worth 80 million euros having been submitted by Newcastle. That's Florian Plettenberg. Yeah, so he's not in the squad today apparently for RB Leipzig. Yeah, nothing too different from what I've brought you there as well. But give us your thoughts on all of that in the comments. Be really interesting to read what you've got to say regarding the whole Sesko situation. Are you concerned? Are you not concerned? I think the main thing for me, it's worrying when a club bid for a player that you're interested in. It all comes down to the player, though. Anyway, Newcastle can bid all they want, but if Sesko chooses to come to United, then that bid means nothing. I do think Newcastle are maybe trying to get us away from the table by bidding that amount, knowing full well that if we don't have the funds, if RB Leipzig accept it, then potentially it leaves them as the only horse in the race. Because if we walk away, then we're like, okay, we're not going to be able to match that valuation. So I do think it's a power play, I think, from Newcastle to try and get the deal done. But again, if the player rejects them first, then that's fine. And I like United's overall tactics this summer as well by getting the buy-in by the players first. If you remember, Ruben Amorim said we only want players to come to United that want to come to United. We don't want players here that are coming for money or any other reasons. And I think that does two things. One, it shows commitment from the player side. Like Mbeumo rejected deals from elsewhere and was insistent that he wants to come to United and only United. It didn't necessarily help us from a negotiation position because Brentford were playing silly games in regards to that, but definitely helped us in terms of being able to structure the deal, I think, a little bit better to give us a bit more wiggle room in the transfer market. But I like the idea that we're doing that. So because if Sesko doesn't decide or becomes a straight race, then maybe he's not the right profile of player that we want to go for anyway. But you'd like to think there's been some sort of conversation or communication for us to go in for him anyway. But we'll wait and see how it all plays out. Give us your shouts in the comments below. Let's move on to some other transfer news. So Fabrizio Romano also interestingly said, I can give you one secret. Man United at the beginning of the window, end of May, start of June, considered the opportunity to go for João Paulina, who is Portuguese like Ruben Amorim. He knows the player so well. Now Paulina is going to Tottenham, 30 million euro loan deal with buy options. That's interesting from Romano saying that, look, we were considering the opportunity to go for Paulina. But then he also said that Man United decided eventually to go for a different player, less holding defensive midfielder, still defensive, but with more intensity in their vision. Let's see what happens with the kind of opportunity and what kind of opportunity is on the market. So Romano also saying that we didn't go for him because we want a different profile of midfielder, less of a holding defensive midfielder, still someone that can do that job, but more intensity in their vision as well. So I don't know what that means. Someone better on the ball, I'm assuming, from Fabrizio Romano. But that's interesting, suggesting that obviously we are still potentially looking for a midfielder, because if we were looking at Paulina and then we haven't got him, that does suggest that we are looking to bring in a midfielder towards the end of the transfer window as well. Remember, back to David Ornstein, striker, goalkeeper, midfielder are the positions, although the goalkeeper news has gone a little bit over the last couple of weeks or last few days, really suggested that maybe that's a bit more on the back burner, because we would have to sell it to buy in that position unless an opportunity presents itself. But give us some shouts and feelings. We're not going to go for, I don't think we're going to have the money for, like an Adam Wharton or a Belieber or something like that as well, but that would be really interesting to see who we do go for, because the midfield, in terms of links and names, not really been that many over the last few weeks anyway. We always get linked with players, but not credible links or credible, we're in negotiations or we're definitely interested in this particular player. Edison's the only one that I would say, but even that's gone really dead, the news around that recently. One option, though, could be Hayden Hackney. So Manchester United are weighing up whether to make a last-minute attempt to win the race for the signature of Middlesbrough star Hayden Hackney, as Old Trafford recruits and recruitment chiefs have continued showing interest despite Ipswich Town having a bid accepted. Now, this is interesting because apparently Ipswich have had a £15 million bid accepted for Hayden Hackney. Amram will have to give Hackney assurances over the amount of game time he can expect if he snubs a move to Ipswich in favour of joining Manchester United, as he is determined to be more than a squad player when he heads into fresh surroundings. So that's really interesting from Dean Jones, who's a decent source as well, suggesting that United might be considering doing a hijack for Hayden Hackney. £15 million, not a bad shout to bring in. Young, good profile of midfielder as well, bit of a maybe fits the style, not necessarily a ball playing midfielder, but an intense runner within the midfield as well. Definitely one that we've been linked with multiple times and scouted, and that's been confirmed. I just don't know whether the links were, they've gone really quiet on him over the last few weeks and months, but could be a shout, could be one to keep an eye on. Let's see what happens regarding that. And then the other position, as I mentioned before, the three, striker, midfielder, and then goalkeeper. The latest there, new PSG signing Lucas Chevalier is set to become the club's first choice goalkeeper, pushing Donnarumma to the bench, with Manchester United among the clubs showing interest. Now, that came from Duncan Castle. Chris Wheeler's also said that we've had a conversation or made an inquiry about Donnarumma as well. I do think the reports are being a little bit blown out of proportion, though, reading between the lines. I think that maybe maybe we've said to PSG, let us know what happens with Donnarumma and the situation there. I don't think they're as advanced as what's being put out there, because ultimately I think we do need a seller goalkeeper. But if an opportunity like Donnarumma becomes available and we've got the funds, maybe they would do it. Maybe they would do it as a way to then force Bayindir or maybe force Onana out, because, if you go maybe a loan, he's got a year left on his contract. Could we be looking at a loan? We know we've tried a loan deal with Martinez. Could we do something like that potentially? But I think we're just waiting. I think we're just being informed on the situation on Donnarumma. Nothing more at this stage, but it's definitely one that's, there's no smoke without fire. But remember, Romano has said nothing concrete at this stage. So we'll keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on that one. In terms of Onana, though, Chris Wheeler said when Monaco were interested in Andre Onana, Man United did mention £30 million, which does show an openness in terms of letting him go. Man United are looking at keepers, but it's similar to Rasmus Hojlund in that there hasn't been any communication about him leaving at this stage. So interesting point from Chris Wheeler, saying that when Monaco were inquiring about Onana feels like months ago now, we did say £30 million. So we're set an asking price for Onana. There is clear intent there to sell the player. It's just we haven't communicated that with Onana because we might need him. You can't say, and this is what I was saying before, we might have opportunities where, teams come in for even not the bomb squad that we want to sell. They might come in and make late offers for first team players that are on the tour, in which case, United would consider it, I think. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Give us your shouts and thoughts on that in the comments. Now, one other way we could make the money back would be Bruno Fernandes. I know some of you from previous videos have been saying around, why did United not accept the bid from the Saudi Pro League at the start of the transfer window, which could have helped us, definitely with money and funds and stuff. There's now been, so Ebola are now saying that Al Nassr coach Jorge Jesus wants to secure the signing of Bruno Fernandes this summer. Money won't be a problem. Possible contact has already taken place in the last few hours. It was under Jorge Jesus that Bruno made his debut at Sporting. Now that came from Ebola, who we know from the Gyökeres situation. We do need to take with a pinch of salt, suggesting now Al Nassr might be going in and making a move for Bruno Fernandes. Interestingly, that's Cristiano Ronaldo's team. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo is working hard to convince Bruno Fernandes to sign with Al Nassr, and his efforts show no signs of stopping. At the same time, Jorge Jesus shares a strong bond with the player. Now, that came from a fairly decent Saudi Arabian journalist. I have no idea how credible they are, though, personally, but been reposted by some aggregator accounts, and by all accounts is fairly decent, suggesting that Al Nassr now might be coming back in for Bruno Fernandes later in the transfer window. But the problem with that is that his family don't want to go to Saudi. One of the issues, or not the issues, one of the reports when we had Bruno Fernandes going to Saudi at the start of the transfer window was that his family don't want to move there. And, that's probably going to be the same situation. And then also it was down to Bruno himself. If Bruno wanted to go, I think the club would have accepted the deal. I don't think we rejected anything. It's just Bruno asked the club, do we need to sell him? We were like, yeah, no, we don't need to sell you. We can get money from other places. So whether that's changed, I doubt it. I highly doubt that anything's changed from Bruno's perspective. Sasha Tavalire, who we do need to take with a pinch of salt, though, said that Bruno Fernandes has turned down a move to Al Nassr. So more talk about potentially Ronaldo coming in to try and get Bruno Fernandes to the Saudi Pro League. Now, that definitely would give us the funds to go and get, top midfielders in and goalkeeper and all of that stuff. But I think the club are reluctant to do it. And I don't think Bruno wants to go to Saudi at this stage. Apparently his family don't want to go. So I can't see anything materializing there, but we will keep an eye on it and pay attention to it. But I know you're gonna give us some thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, which I will enjoy reading later. And then finally on Antony has turned down a Saudi offer, holding out for Real Betis as the transfer deadline approaches. Betis believe that by rejecting an offer, Antony will force Man United to accept their loan proposal. Now that came from a Spanish journalist. And that's the worry with Antony, isn't it? Is the fact that, he's holding out for Real Betis if he's rejected a move to Saudi, and that they believe that they're going to wait till the end of the transfer window and force us to accept a loan. I would absolutely love the club to just reject that outright if it comes in and just say to Antony, well, that's fine. You had offers, you had opportunities to leave the club and, go to the World Cup and stuff. You've rejected it. We told you to get a permanent move away from the club, and we're not going to do a loan deal, even though that will probably, we'd have to get creative in terms of PSR and stuff. But if you sell Garnacho, then maybe you do just take the hit and just play Antony in the 21s or in the reserves for the full season, or put him in the first team squad and make him train, but he's hardly going to get any game time with the obviously lack of European football and the fact that I don't think he's good enough to get anywhere near the first team ahead of Mbeumo, Cunha, Ahmad, all the other players in his position in the team. I would love United to take that stance, but whether they will or they won't, who knows? We'll have to wait and see how all that plays out. But give us your thoughts and feelings on all of that in the comments below. It's you all up to date with the latest news. Give us your thoughts and feelings. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.